The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorials. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a couple of pages, like decorate them for Halloween. And specifically, these pages are going to be inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's poem The Raven, with one page sort of dedicated to Poe himself and the other one dedicated to the subject of the poem, Lenore. So let's go ahead and jump right in here. We're going to be taking some of the papers from the Halloween bundle. So we're just going to start by tearing the pages sort of in a diagonal slant and just keeping the corners for each of the pages. And the way I have them arranged now is actually going to change, but you get the general idea. Just sort of tear off a corner of the page, whichever sort of elements you liked. I really liked the way the haunted houses looked, so I decided to keep those in. And then for the other pages, I tried to use something a little more feminine and a little more quote-unquote masculine to sort of enhance the effect that I was going for with Poe versus Lenore. And right here you can kind of see I decided to lay out the pages and then set the elements aside on the table beforehand so that I could go ahead and just sort of focus on crafting without thinking about where I was going to stick things down. And I didn't have enough room on my table to put the Lenore stuff aside, so it'll be in the video, but just ignore it for now. We're going to start on the left page. And for that, you're going to want to take the freebies that come with the kit. You can get these freebies on our Facebook page. And specifically, we're going to be using the spider web. I went ahead and used a Cricut to cut mine out, so it's a little easier, but you could also use scissors or an X-Acto knife and just take a little more time with it. And since we'll be using hinges to secure it down, we're going to want to leave this left side of this top corner not secured down with tape, because we'll need to tuck the hinges underneath it. So when you're taping everything down, just try to remember that. And I forgot, but I was going to be adding this letter underneath the lower corner tab. So go ahead and tuck that in before you tape it down, or otherwise you'll have to sort of rip things up and retape it like I did, but it worked out okay in the end. All right, and taking some of these little hinges and super glue, we're going to lay our spider web up in the corner where we kind of want it to be, and then sort of eyeball where we want the hinges to go as well. Once it looks good, go ahead and remove the web and lay out your hinges in a open position. And we're going to add a little bit of super glue to the right side of the hinge and tuck it underneath the paper flap, just until the spine of the hinge meets the edge of the paper. And I'm using a bone folder to go ahead and press it down so I don't get any glue on my fingers. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some glue underneath this entire section, including underneath the hinges and the paper, just so that everything stays nice and tight down to the page itself. And then flipping over our web, we're going to be gluing the hinges to the web itself. So I'm going to place a little piece of scrap paper underneath the hinges, just so I don't accidentally glue them to the table or anything like that, just being really careful with the whole process. And again, adding super glue to the open face of the hinge. And then carefully aligning our web with the corner and placing it on top. And full disclosure here, the glue did kind of seep through the paper, so you can kind of see it. It didn't really bother me too much, but if it bothers you, you might want to try finding a different kind of glue or experimenting with different types of adhesives. But I'm just going to go ahead and press on by swinging the web back and forth to make sure that the glue doesn't seep into the hinge and make it stuck. So I just kind of want it to be able to dry while moving to make sure it'll, swing continuously. And I'm going to place some ephemera down here just to kind of get an idea of what I want things to look like. And then grabbing some Velcro, we're going to be cutting some small strips and using it to secure these little specimen cards, Halloween specimen cards that you can get in our shop. And the Velcro is sticky on the back, so all you have to do is remove the paper from the Velcro and press them down. And I'm going to be placing mine sort of in the darker edges of the image so that you can't see them as much. I'll be placing one on the side of the specimen card itself, lining it up with the Velcro piece that I already put down on the page. And we'll be doing this for the side and the bottom of the specimen card. Make sure that it has a secure hold. Just like so. And that way, when you want to, you can remove the specimen card from the page. All right, so next we're going to build a little pocket here. So I'm taking this little card that comes from our Halloween ephemera pack, or the Halloween bundle, excuse me. And this Nevermore that I cut out from the freebie, and I'm just going to put that on the bottom and just kind of work with some of these ephemera pieces to decorate the pocket. And I'm taking a little bit of distress ink and I'm just going to distress the edges of it. I'm sort of working with a monochromatic color palette here, sticking to blacks and grays and whites and like off-whites as well. Next, we're going to be making a bookmark, taking these two labels from the Poe Raven label kit that we have in our shop. And I'm just going to be gluing them back to back and adding a little bit of distress ink around the edges, covering up any white that's showing. And then we're going to be punching a hole out of the top and adding a eyelet and some black ribbon to finish off the bookmark. Like so, and also tucking in a few ephemera pieces from the Halloween bundle as well. And finally, I'm adding this little black craft feather I got from the craft store, just to kind of stick with the theme. Right, next we're going to be taking this picture of Poe. And I got this just by cutting one of the tabs from the Poe Raven tab kit and then adding this little Poe nameplate that came with the freebie. And then grabbing a few other pieces of ephemera from the various kits. I'm just going to sort of lay them out and place them where I think they look nice, as well as this little locket that I bought from the craft store. And for this one, I'm adding a picture of Lenore, or I suppose it's like an outline of Lenore, also cut out from the Poe Raven labels. And then just laying everything out and gluing it down. And next, we're going to be taking some dark red wax and a rose wax stamp to create a decorative seal on the page. And unfortunately, the seal didn't turn out quite how I wanted, so I'm going to sort of fake it and do it again by just adding a little more wax around the edges and a few extra drips to kind of get the look I was going for. And to finish it off, we are going to use some super glue to glue down the locket from earlier. I was just waiting to kind of make sure I wanted it where it was on the page, and I do, so just going to secure that down, and now the page is finished. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started on Lenore's page by making some pieces that we will be using later. So we're going to be making 10 of these little frames that come from the potions and apothecary labels, and we're going to be gluing some words and images to them that I cut out from like the Poe Raven tags and some other Halloween ephemera pieces. And then we're also going to start on the door that we will be adding later. So from the freebie, you will be cutting out the darkness there and nothing more piece, as well as the doors, just cutting around the edge and folding it in half. And then using a little bit of clear gel tacky glue, we're going to glue those pieces together. And then using scissors, we're going to cut them in half once the glue has dried. And when you are done, you should have two pieces like this. And we're just going to fold those little hinges over the little tabs so that they fold backward and forward, like so. And we're going to set that aside for now and just go ahead and start working on decorating our pages. So grabbing those torn corners that we made in the very beginning, we're just going to tape those down. And for this center piece, I'm going to be laying down some glue right along the middle of the two torn pieces. And we're going to be adding a little bit of this black lace ribbon that I picked up at the craft store, cutting off the edges so that they are diagonal and aligned with the pages, and just pressing that down. And getting this picture of Lenore that comes with the freebie, we're just going to place that up in the corner to help me sort of orient where everything else is going. And now it is time for the doors down the opposite corner, and I accidentally lost the footage for cutting out these little holes, but all you do is take a micro hole punch and cut out a hole right in where the like doorknob would be in the image. And I'm going to be using these little brads to sort of simulate a doorknob on the doors. Just like this. And now that those are both done, we can go ahead and glue them down. So just taking a little bit of clear gel tacky glue under each of the tabs, we're going to glue them down to the page and let those dry while we decorate everything else. And when they are done, they should swing like this. All right, and taking those 10 little tabs we made earlier, like the little picture frames, we are going to be arranging them sort of in a staggered formation up along the ribbon. And the inspiration for this was kind of like when you go to really old mansions and you see like along the staircases, they have all these pictures of the family going up the banister. That's kind of what I was sort of inspired by for this. And so that the whites of the edges didn't show, I'm just going to be taking a little bit of black distress ink and going around the edges of each of the frames. And instead of taping them down, we're going to be using puff tape to kind of give them a bit of a three-dimensional look on the page, and they layer over each other really nicely. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. And that finishes up our little banister inspiration piece. Next, we're going to be grabbing this little quote from the Raven that comes with the freebie, and using this special ruler that I have with like this jagged edge on it, I'm going to be tearing the edges of the paper to give it a bit of an older look and adding a little bit of distress ink around it. And just placing that aside for now. Now, this next thing, I don't know if it quite came together how I wanted, but I figured I would chat about it anyway. Basically, I just glued these two pieces of ephemera together that I had kind of cut from other pieces earlier, and adding two brads to the edge of it with a micro hole punch. I'm just going to kind of be sliding them through the spirals of the spiral notebook, and using these scissors I'm going to be flattening the backs of the brads, and this way the piece will slide across the spirals, and it kind of looks okay. It's kind of cool, but it is a bit of a pain when you open the book. You have to move it with the page every time you want to open this page up, so it's kind of going to be up to you if you want to do that or not. It's pretty easy to remove if you don't like it, so I would recommend giving it a try if you want. And we're going to be using it later to conceal a keyhole, but first I'm going to go ahead and make a lace pocket for the key itself, and to do that I just took a scrap from one of the Halloween papers and used a hole punch, a large one, to cut the center of it out, and adding some of that black lace ribbon to the back of it, cutting off the edge. We are going to be gluing it down to the page just on the sides and bottom of it so that it forms a pocket for our little key that I had from a craft store. You can buy these at the craft store or online. A lot of places sell like little decorative keys. So that's what this is for. And it just slides in like so. And we're going to be adding a couple of ephemera pieces here, this little spider up in the corner, and gluing down these little decorative flowers that I got. I'm also making a locket with Poe's picture in it, and I got that picture also from the Poe Raven labels, just cut it out and added it. And for the keyhole, I have this little keyhole like hardware piece, as well as some scraps that I had left over, a black scrap and one with some writing on it. And we're just going to be layering those on top of each other so that the black is under the hardware, so it kind of looks like the keyhole actually has, like, you know, depth to it. Trimming off the edge a little bit so it fits under this little movable tag that we made. And to finish off the page, I'm going to be adding some black wax with a rose stamp. And using a bronze Sharpie, I'm just going to lightly go over the raised edges of the rose itself so that it sort of stands out. And there you have it. That is our finished Lenore page. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you in our next video. Bye!
Quoth the raven, nevermore.